Starts out slow, but it's getting really out of hand now, where foreigners are being purposely gouged for huge amounts of money, like $1,000 for little things, intentionally leaving out a passport stamp or things like that. So
Frank, what do you think about this comment on our video, the Expat Bubble in Portugal? Somebody said, retirees don't take up jobs. They do spend money though, and that helps the economy. What do you think about that? I mean, there's all these bubbles all over, and I keep reading that the retirees do help the economy. Is that true?
well, we're all about making our dreams come true and your dreams come true. And the way one of the things that we do is we sit down and we're just 100% clear about what's real and what's really happening and how to deal with it in such a way that we can make our dreams come true and help you do the same thing. With anything in life that is untrue or inaccurate or not totally accurate, there's always a little bit of truth in it. And so some of the best lies have a little bit of truth in them. So with this, it's the same thing. Yes, there is some accuracy to that. Clearly, spending money in an economy is good for that economy in general. But as far as making a blanket statement about how wonderful everything that is happening and the way that it's happening, this is the key that we talk about a lot in our videos, is it isn't the general principle that is being put under a microscope. It's the way that it's being done that creates consequences, to cause and effect, if you will, that is detrimental to everybody involved, whether it's the locals, the travelers, the people that want to become expats and live abroad and everything. And one could say, yes, it is the normal flow of life, where when people are moving into a place, things get inflationary, and that's correct. But when it comes to this age that we're in, where internet promotions have a way of just speeding everything up and magnifying the numbers quickly, things get out of control fairly quickly within just a few years. As far as the helping the economy, just to get clear on some examples, I've seen this in Ecuador, where even for a really desirable location, let's say beachfront, when there's no foreigner traffic or internet traffic, maybe you could rent something for $400 or $500 a month beachfront. But once the foreigner traffic comes in, those rentals become $900, $1,000, $1,200, over a period of time, not in the same week, but over a period of a few years, they just start inching up. So that's just to make an example. But if we get away from, say, beachfront and just go to the city, once this kind of thing branches out into the neighborhoods of the locals, to take it away from just that small little spot that's beachfront. Now you've got everyday folk that work for a living that have to go from I'll give you an example. We were in Cuenca, Ecuador. We went to look for a rental. It was a $200 small house, maybe a couple bedrooms, 2-3 bedrooms, but small. And it was like $200. And when we showed up, at the same time that we showed up, there happened to be a young Cuencano family showing up with their young daughter. And as they were getting out of the car, when we first got there and they first got there, I'm looking at them, then they're looking at me like, uh-oh, gringos. And I'm looking at them and I'm going, oh, those look like locals. And I'm starting to think, my brain is starting to churn, and I'm going, okay, I don't want to take housing away from locals. So I graciously bowed out and said to the family, go ahead, take it. But I'm not saying that to pat myself on the back for that. I'm saying that to say that in that scenario, where the landlord hadn't seen me before, had that landlord already seen me and maybe other gringos showed up and maybe started paying $400 for that house, now that local Cuencano family is priced out, because they would have to go from $200 to $400. Okay, So, you know, and I've also met Cuencanos in Cuenca that couldn't find. I would ask them for lower price rentals in the local price range, and they said that they too were looking for them and couldn't find them. And then you also would see Cuencanos put ads out on their local, you know, periodicals, whether online or offline, saying, I'm looking for a house, this many bedrooms, and then they'd list the, you know, pre-bubble local price. And, you know, I mean, they're just having to advertise in order to, so they can afford to live in their own country. And this is the working class. I mean, they don't have location independent income. They have to work where they work. It's like the Panamanians. They have to now commute, you know, several hours out of the city because they can no longer afford to live there, and they have to live outside. And I really cringe because I'm starting to see YouTube videos promote those areas where the locals have been pushed out of the city, and now they've gone to these areas outside of the city. But now even those areas are starting to get promoted as the lower price place to go on YouTube, and all that's going to do is displace them even more. So all that does is all of this displacement, eventually lines are crossed where it just blows up, and then you start seeing kinds of things like what's happening. This happened in the Dominican Republic, and you're
it's
seeing
happening in Portugal.
It's happening in Portugal, but it's also starting to get out of hand level. It starts out slow, but it's getting really out of hand now, where foreigners are being purposely gouged for huge amounts of money, like $1,000 for little things, intentionally leaving out a passport stamp or things like that. So the kind of thing that was happening in the DR, and so it's just too many foreigners too quickly in one spot. So back to the idea that, you know, foreigners don't take jobs. That's just a very small portion. That's the correct portion of this whole bigger picture that I just went into, which we talk about a lot, I know, but, you know, this idea has to be dispelled. It's like this double bacon bounty cheese is good for you because it's got a slice of tomato in it.
So you're saying then that the economies that expats and retirees to these countries help are on a very small scale, like real estate agencies and tour operating companies.
I think what you're saying is that the money does flow to certain industries. Yes, that's correct. It flows to the tourism industries and the real estate industries, but only within those specific areas.
What about the majority of the people? They don't see any of that money.
The rest of the industries, I mean, as far as a trickle-down effect, I haven't seen a real trickle-down effect. I mean, the local workers are still living on their own economy. Only the ones that are directly participating within this foreign economy are the beneficiaries of it, the ones specifically in that location. If it wasn't the case, Panamanians wouldn't have had to move out of the city and go 1 or 2 hours out. You know, Portuguese wouldn't be saying that locals are being kicked out of real estate and they're having to leave the city. And
so then we could say that actually expat bubbles and these gringo bubbles and foreigner bubbles all over the world actually destroy the economy for the local people.
The thing is that it's a two-edged sword, because, you know, the ones that are benefiting aren't going to complain, and the ones that it's always detrimental to are the working class. And the working class and slash poor, which they by default and by comparison become poorer, because now you have these people. The disparity is more prevalent, whereas before, you know, there just weren't so many foreigners with so much money. Now there's so many foreigners with so much money, and the prices are so much higher that their poverty actually increased, because they can actually afford even less than they did before. So it's a tough situation to talk about, because, you know, to sit here and talk about all the wonderful benefits and to totally ignore the detrimental aspects is a disservice, you know, to the people. You know, I love the idea of living abroad, and I love the idea of travel, but I also love the idea of sensible, doing things in a sensible manner, understanding what's really happening, having the complete picture, having all the facts, and not being manipulated by those that would have you believe certain things in order to gain on their own agendas. So it's a sad fact of life that these things do happen. You know, I just feel for the locals. You know, I mean, I don't know how something like this would be balanced out, other than to put out factual, truthful information and help people become more informed. And actually, there is something that people can do. They can, I call it, go abroad like a pro. You know, go abroad like a pro. I mean, you know, learn what it takes to really to get to the bottom of what are locals doing, how are they doing it, what prices are they paying. And there's those that want us to make frilly videos that don't talk about this kind of stuff for prices. You know, there's lots of videos like that. And yeah, we've made lots of videos like that. We've got 1,000 videos on just Ecuador. You can go abroad like a pro, understand that what you're looking at is only part of the story. It's just a superficial side of it. It's not the best way to do things, and there's a better way to do things so that people can coexist peacefully on equal footing, with respect and with peace and love and abundance for everyone. And that's why we rolled out the educational classes that we now have in the links below, where we actually can teach people. And different people are at different levels, and they can actually learn to be at this much higher level than your average expat that has no clue, that just follows the crowd. In our classes, you can learn to have the inside scoop on everything, but not just that, you can learn how to actually implement these things and how to not get taken advantage of, not get, you know, to where you're getting ripped off, all around, just not be the guy that everybody's smiling at because they're overcharging you triple. So, you know, without going into all that, it's a way to just have the insider skinny on it and how to implement it. And I'll tell you, people will respect you for that. And because not only can you know the real location that you're going to, not just the touristy, like the real Panama, not the gringo Panama, but you can also make a better decision as to, okay, well, I've seen this and I want it, or I've seen this now and now I have two different things to compare. I can say, well, gee, wow, I mean, I kind of knew maybe there was something to this, but now I know how to do this and how to implement it. And now I have more choices. I have way more choices than I had before, whereas before I was limited to this right here. Now I have all these other options, and it doesn't mean that I'm going to take advantage of all these options, but, you know, just the idea that you can weigh all the other options and see what is suitable for you is just empowering. It's so empowering and encouraging and just confidence building. You know what to do if you like the video, and yeah, sign up for our videos. All right, and do it like a pro. Check the links below.
Ciao.
Bye.